live.
We're ready for you.
We're here.
Happy day of the week.
What have we got?
Cacao
We got
from
cacao.
Guatemala.
Guatemalan cacao.
In my Happy Face 12 onzas mug. Love you 12 onzas. Shout out. And your Guatemalan ceramic mug.
Okay. Yes. Happy Wednesday. It's Wednesday.
It's Wednesday
for us.
It's Wednesday for us. It's in the morning time.
Welcome to
Intimacy with God. Cute. Are we cute?
It's like we have sex.
Today is so great because we're going to talk about something that every relationship goes through at multiple stages of your relationship. Mm-hmm. And that is setbacks.
Setbacks.
Where you get
Where you
set
just
back.
like recline.
Yeah, you just chill out.
You just sit back and let the good things happen.
Yeah, it's just easy peasy.
It's good. I like that.
Yeah.
That's not what we're talking about, is it?
No. We're talking about challenge.
Challenge.
And you thought things were going to go one way, but they totally did not.
And how to deal with that. And how to overcome it and triumph with love and sex and prayer.
And God.
And each other.
Coming back to God and each
Yeah.
other. Coming back to the God in each other. Coming back to the eternal God.
I like what you did there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So today's rich. Today is going to be very supportive. I feel like, especially if you're in a season of what feels like a setback or multiple setbacks. Obviously, multiple setbacks can wear on the spirit. And the ability to persevere. Sometimes they can make you rub up against your edges because it's just hard. It feels so hard.
Yeah.
It's like...
When you have consistent multiple setbacks.
Oof, it's rough.
How do you find the courage to persevere?
And I love some of the discussion that we were getting into last night to prepare for this. You guys, we think about you the night before. We think about you throughout the week, actually. And
You are with us always. You are one with us.
Yes. And I'm excited for where we're
too.
going to take this conversation. But maybe you want to set the framework.
I'll set the framework. Oh, I need a different frame to work with.
That's part of what we were talking about this week also, actually.
That was
The frame with which you're seeing things through.
Uh-huh.
How are you framing it? We'll get into that.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
I'm excited.
We're going to start with
Fallopians.
Philippians 3.
Sorry, we do not mean to offend. We know that it's not Philippians.
Philippians chapter 3, verse 13 to 14. Just one verse. That's all we need today.
One verse.
One verse. Sufficient. Brothers and sisters.
That's y'all.
That is. I do not consider myself yet to have taken hold of it. What's he holding? I wonder. What is it?
We don't know because you only tapped into one verse.
Yeah.
So we're not quite sure.
But
We might need a second verse.
I gotta project
Okay.
and say that it's what he's about to speak into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's where I think he's going.
Foretelling?
Yeah. But one thing I do, as in one thing I do have, forgetting what is behind and straining towards what is ahead, I press on towards the goal to win the prize for which God has called me heavenward in Christ Jesus. That's it.
Win the prize, the final countdown.
I couldn't help myself.
So, forgetting what is behind.
Yeah.
How important that is in a relationship.
I want to caveat that though.
Okay.
I want to say it's not a complete forgetting because it's only in learning from the past that we do better in the future.
Right.
So I think it's a letting go of what's no longer serving from the past and continue to strain ahead towards the goal. And it's, well, how can you keep in sight when you are faced with struggle the thing that you're moving forwards towards rather than being weighed down by the past, by what was behind.
We even talked about that a little bit in our relationship this week. That's like where within our own lives, in our own present moment actually, have we both been carrying things from the past that we were just kind of like beating ourselves up over, like where we weren't allowing ourselves to not forget, like what you're saying, but move on, like take the wisdom from that experience and move forward towards the goal, which for me, I'm always going to say, you guys hear me preach this all the time, like the goal for me is returning to love, like returning to the tether of love. And in that, really does reside God, because God's love is eternal and God's grace is eternal. And so for me, I had to think about, like, what do I need to do personally in order to set myself free from that? So I'm not feeling like I have this ball and chain that I'm going to suffer for the rest of my life, or I have these beliefs or whatever it is.
It's that fine balance between not being a martyr and not bypassing.
Yeah. And it is a fine balance, y'all. That line can feel very thin, very blurry, almost transparent.
You oscillate.
Yeah.
Sometimes you are a martyr in relationship and in life, and then sometimes you do try and bypass as a way to move forwards. And it's...
I'll just get over it. Just get over
it's
it,
so
right?
easy to do that. So like you might be going through struggle in life or in relationship right now, and it can be so easy to just try and overlook it and shove it over there as a way to continue straining forwards. It's like, well,
straining.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very positive.
Doesn't sound
I'm struggle
fun.
busing to move forward.
Yeah.
We don't want that. We want victory. We were talking about this yesterday, like visualizing the victory in your relationship.
And I think in order to get there, it's not always an easy street, right? It is a struggle. Right. It can be a strain. Like if it were easy, there would be no...
We wouldn't even be having this conversation with you guys right now.
There would be no value to it, really.
Right.
It's through the challenge.
Yeah.
And in relationship, I see it a lot on social media. People wanting, why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to find someone? Why is it so hard to be in partnership? Dating should be fun. It's like, yeah, dating can be fun, but relationship is full spectrum.
Yeah, of course. Dating is like this beautiful, I hear a lot of people talking about how hard dating is, and I'm not denying that it's not hard, or that it's not challenging to find somebody that meets you where you're at. And also, if dating's hard, relationship's gonna be real fucking hard.
Yeah, getting into a relationship is like getting to the starting line.
Yeah, like you're still playing on the top surface level. You better enjoy those desserts, honey, because once you get into a relationship, they're really intimate mirrors. We talk about this also. That's like the longer that you spend in relationship, the more you think you start to know your partner, the more intimate and deep those reflections become. And so I think in partnership, both of our sacred duties are to reflect where we feel like our partner isn't fully activated, or is self-sabotaging, or is holding themselves back from something that we know they have the potential, to move towards. I don't like to say like we highlight each other's setbacks.
No, but I think in partnership it inevitably brings it into the light, or at least it can.
Yeah.
I also saw a couple of people on Threads saying, I want to be with someone, and I want it to be challenging, or like I want them to meet me in challenge. It's like, well, I feel like there's a difference between, you can deal with the challenge that comes up, but that doesn't mean you need to be necessarily challenging.
Like, there's a wordplay there. It's like, well, also, what does being met in challenge mean? Does that mean that they want to be held and coddled, or do they want an actual divine reflection of where they might be in victim mentality or perpetuating their own issues? Like, what is that? Because I feel like we, especially in the spiritual community, there's people talking about craving depth, and they want intimacy, and they want their partnership to call them to a higher level. And then you reach those cruxes, and then it's like, oh, I don't like this. I'm not enjoying this experience because I'm feeling vulnerable, and now I'm being exposed to where I'm not taking care of myself.
Right.
Which is really what it's about.
But this is actually what you asked for.
Exactly.
It's just not what you expected it to look or feel like.
Yeah.
It's, it is the struggle, and it is like in those instances of setback, because in that conflict, it stops being smooth sailing, and then in a way it is a setback. And the bigger the shadow, or the bigger the the bigger the challenge that has been highlighted in yourself in the partnership, the more is required to overcome the setback.
Yeah, of course.
And so how do we choose to move forwards towards the goal, the prize, which I'm presuming is love?
Love, connection,
prosperity,
peace,
success.
right?
You know, in tantric, you're allowed to have, at least in non-Jewish tantra, you're allowed to have worldly success. It's encouraged. It's just not the primary. The primary focus is that connection with God and love, and from that coming the success.
Yeah.
And that requires having the view to move forwards in the face of conflict, in the face of setback.
And so the nice thing to like ask yourselves if you're in this season of setback or setbacks is like, what do you need as an individual first in order to return to love? And we talked about this yesterday in conflict. Sometimes it can be challenging if both partners are reactive.
Yes.
And it's just like bomb, 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 and you're just attacking each other. All you really need is one of you to have the tiniest sliver of awareness that recognizes, oh, my partner is also experiencing challenge. What is their behavior dictating towards me? And we were talking about this example last night of like anxious or avoidant. It's like, oh, if your partner has more of avoidant tendencies, what they're likely truly asking for is space. They need space to go process it on their own so that way they can come back to you, best case scenario if you're in a healthy dialogue, come back to you and then be able to process it.
Yeah.
But they've reached the point where they can't handle it anymore, so their avoidant comes in.
Yeah. And if you're not sure what an avoidant is, or if you're the avoidant, or if you're with an avoidant, it's you find safety through spaciousness. You need your own individual time with yourself rather than an anxious, which is someone who needs company.
Needs the sensation of you there.
Yeah.
And we find this also with like a lot of anxious attachments. There's like this fear of abandonment there. And so we can see how the attachments play out. The avoidant goes, I just need to go over here.
And then the
to take care of
anxious goes,
myself.
but I need you.
Yeah.
But I need you.
But I need you. And so it's this like also highlighting of like where in your relationship might you be feeling codependent. And in having that sliver of awareness that goes, okay, he needs to take space for himself, or she needs to take space for herself. How can I know and trust in myself that that's what they're doing and that's what they need to do to return to love or to return to a more regulated space? And in the meantime, I'm going to go do what I need to do and self-resource or core resource with other people.
Yeah.
So that I can also come back to love.
I feel like part of that conversation is a humility and a self-sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, well, I need to sacrifice my need right now because I'm aware of what's going on. And in doing that, there's the humility. Well, like this person needs something and I can offer that to them. You know, if you are the avoidant and you are the one who has the sliver of consciousness, you go, I kind of would love my space, but I see that they need me right now, so I'm going to be here for them, and I'll sacrifice my desire for spaciousness, and I'll get it, you know, later when they feel a bit more regulated. It's having that awareness to go, I'm going to put this person ahead of me.
Right. Or if you can't, having that spare moment to go, I recognize that you really need support from me right now, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, and I'm not able to offer that. So I would like to go take some space. I'm not abandoning you. I'm not leaving you. I will return. And I'm going to go take an hour to go for a walk. I'm going to go work out for a half an hour.
Right.
And then when I come back, we'll reassess and see where we're at.
And how many times I've heard anecdotally, and I think I've probably done myself, is people will do that, but without communicating it. So people will just storm out and go for a walk, or just huff and leave and go somewhere without actually communicating that that's what's happening. It's like, I need some space right now. And it's not about you, it's about me. And it's so that I can come back and we can overcome this setback.
Yeah.
from a more centered place. We can return to love.
And it doesn't have to be perfect at first. It can be messy. But what I find even with my clients, my one-on-one clients who have gone through trauma, is that even just by saying those 2 sentences, I love you, I'm still here for you, but I need to go take space so that I can have the conversation that we need to have, can feel so much more soothing to the nervous system, to where that person can then go, okay, I'm not being broken up with, I'm not being abandoned, this person just needs this in order for us to have a healthy, positive conversation. That's really the goal in Setbacks. It's like, how are we communicating, and are we communicating effectively? If not, what do we need to do for ourselves so that we can overcome this setback together? But we have to do the independent work first.
And you know what I see that independent work being, essentially?
Tell me.
It's the value of integrating this into your day consistently is
These conversations, you mean?
is returning to God.
Right.
Because it's that space where it's beyond yourself. You know, if you're an avoidant, go spend time with God. It's just you by yourself, essentially. And if you're anxious, then go spend time with God, because it's company.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
And it's a way to refocus on the prize,
Yeah.
to return to love. And if you're making it a consistent part of your day, then even if you're having like a 12-hour marathon challenge and argument, you've carved out this consistent part of your day where you get to actually take a break from it and return to love.
It's like seeking that inner counsel and that guidance. And I tell this to people all the time. Sometimes working out, sometimes dancing, sometimes doing these things can be a form of bypassing. So it's important to notice, like, am I doing this because I just want to avoid this and I just rather do something else? Or am I using this to actually move the energy so that I can create space to come back to God, to come back to myself and my needs and my desires, and what the prize is for me in this particular moment.
I love one of the things that you've incorporated into your daily practice, which is an alarm to just take a few moments. So even if you're going through something, that alarm goes off, and just that is the sliver of consciousness from the past version of you who was more aware, to set that up. And that is the one that is bringing you back.
Yeah, right now I have 3 alarms that go off during the day, and I call them my peace alarms. If you've been in my space for a while, I've had heart alarms, I've had love alarms. It's like one of the most foundational practices that I return to, especially when I feel like I'm in chaotic turmoil. Hello, portals. And it goes off 3 times a day, once in the morning, 1 mid-afternoon, 1 sometime in the evening. And when it goes off, I close my eyes and I give myself a moment to just do a body scan and release tension in my body. And it's like, what do I need to return to peace? Typically the body scan is all I need. I can just sit there and I can just like slowly go through my body and just release tension that I might be unconsciously carrying throughout the day. When it's heart alarms, or if I'm in issue with my partner, it's like the love alarms. When they go off, it's like, okay, what's one thing I really love about my partner? What's one thing I'm grateful for about my partner? That brings me back into that loving energy.
That's nice. It's a nice practical tool to incorporate into your daily life, but also your relationship life. Anything else for overcoming setback?
There's something that we had in there that I enjoyed. It's like, no, when the setback comes, you get to choose what is on the other side. And I feel like this is a really important, maybe we can just like final touch point on this, is like, this can be in relationship, this can be in life in general, right? And I think this speaks to our resilience as humans and the development of that like when challenge occurs or when a setback occurs, where does your mind immediately go? And it makes me think of like, what beast are you feeding, or what wolf are you feeding? Maybe some people have heard that. Are you feeding the wolf or the beast that's like, this is never going to work out, I'm not good enough, this is so hard, I don't want to do this? Or are you feeding the beast that's like, this is challenging, but I know that I'm going to find a solution. I know we're having challenge, but we deeply love each other and we're going to work this out, right? So how are you framing the challenge?
Because the one that wins is the one you feed.
Exactly.
And it speaks into a tantric idea that at any moment we have the ability to choose how we respond to the situation. We can either choose to abide by our unconscious programming, or we can choose to return to presence and see the truth of what is.
And at the start, I feel like that's not always easy, right?
So
like
hard.
we only know what we know, and we're only aware of what we're aware of until somebody or something highlights those behaviors and those patterns. And so that's why I talk about even a sliver of awareness of moment, even if it's after the fact. And I talk about this all the time for my own personal self, where I'll go, oh, yep, that comment slipped out. That like, poof, I was reactionary. That hit really fast, and like, poof, I can recover from that. But having that awareness goes, interesting, that person said something that like, ooh, touched on something inside of me. There's work for me there.
That's the relationship in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
You get like live, real-time feedback. You don't have to have the thought and then later that day, like, oh yeah, that happened.
Yeah.
Or then when you go and speak or engage with someone, especially when you're living with someone, the feedback is right there, and it's the opportunity to highlight where those programs come in.
Yeah.
Like, you just did that. I mean, that's not how it usually goes.
This actually just happened. Can I share a real life example with you? Okay, so I had cacao. This is no joke, y'all. This is like 21 minutes ago. I had cacao, and he wanted to get some cacao for himself, and he brought over. I make it in a NutriBullet, and so he was bringing over the plastic thing, and I was like, do you want a mug for that? and as soon as I said it, I caught it. It was like, no, he clearly doesn't, because he's carrying it over in the plastic cup. I want a mug for that, because I think the mug looks better.
So I was like, do you want me to get a different mug?
I was like, yes, I do. And I caught it right after I said it, because clearly if he cared, he would have put it in a mug.
Right.
And so that's just like a funny real-time example that just happened 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but it's a significant example.
Yeah.
Like, it's something innocuous and not as big.
Yeah.
But it's something that's there, and it's something that can be so missed, right? Something so innocuous and small and insignificant as that. But it's an opportunity to just recognize it and address it and bring attention to it, and it not have to turn into an argument.
Right. That could have easily, if we were different people,
Right.
that could have
That's so
easily
true.
blown up.
Yeah.
That could have blown. You always do this to me. It's my shirts. It's my
Right,
mug. It's
yeah.
my. You're always
Nothing I do
telling
is
me-
good enough for you.
Yeah. And so I love and appreciate that it's like such a joke for us. And like you're saying, it's there's so many parables to this example.
And that could have gone sideways in so many ways. You could have expressed that, and I could have taken it badly, and then I could have called you out on it, and then you could have taken that badly.
And then pew, pew,
Right,
we're,
and then
we're
it's just
shooting guns at each
yeah,
other.
and this would have been a very different intimacy with God.
Yeah.
But it's, as innocuous as it is, it's a setback.
Right. Yeah, it takes that moment of like, wait, because you could have just gone, oh, okay, yeah. But I love that it's like in that moment, straight up called me out, even though I was already in the experience of like, oh, wait, this is my desire. This isn't your desire. I'm not going to impose my desire upon you. I could just ask you for what I want.
And I love what you did there, when you said it was a setback, because it was literally an opportunity to just step back and view the situation for what it was.
Which was me. It was my ask.
And that's the value of a setback, right? The value of a setback isn't that it's knocking you back, it's that it's giving you the opportunity to take perspective.
And even after that happened, I had this thought to myself, y'all. I was like, I wonder where else I do that. in our relationship, but in life in general, where it's like this weird, like suggestive manipulation kind of energy that was so subtle. It was so subtle, just happened to put it. I was like, oh, I care about
Right.
having a plastic cup here as opposed to this mug. That's my superficiality, y'all. But like, where else does that show up in my life where I kind of have this like weird, subtle, I try to change things?
Well, can I reframe it?
Yeah, of course.
I don't want to view it as superficiality. I see it as the desire for aesthetic beauty. It's like,
yeah, I care.
you know,
I clearly
care.
care.
You care about visual.
Thank you.
Visual aesthetic. You care
do.
about beauty, and I care less. Clearly, and it's an invitation for me to care more. It's actually something that has happened in our partnership. You know, I don't need these little fairy lights on at night. Like it didn't do much for me, but then it does a lot for Tiffany.
I turn them on every night, y'all. It's so cute.
And I turn them on now as well because I've learned to appreciate the beauty of the aesthetic. It's like, oh, okay, this is it's bringing beauty into life.
Yeah.
And it's a tantric idea of what you were saying. This seeing the truth of what actually happened rather than the story and the projection that we put on top of it.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
what actually happened was I had a different mug. The story that you created was, I don't like that mug. You should get a different one.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we do it, and how often do we do it in other places as well? We do it all the time on social media and threads. And I'm having these conversations with people, and I write something, and they take what I've written and project their entire story onto it.
Yeah.
And that creates their suffering. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
So use the challenge in relationship as an opportunity to step back and gain perspective of how you want to move forwards. I think that's a really nice.
I think that's so beautiful. And this is what I love about doing our one-on-one client work. Like when we work with couples is, like I said before, like sometimes you don't know what you don't know. And so having an external judgment-free balanced space to go, hey, I'm noticing that you said that. Like what's actually happening there? Which we've had to do with our couples in retreats. It's like, you know, you're so good. He goes, pause. Pause where you're at right now. You just did this thing and I want to touch on that. And then there's this whole story that unravels that creates so much more depth of meaning and understanding for both parties. Right? So even in the cacao example, if you had gone pause, what that's really about, I would go, it's that I care about aesthetics and I want a certain look in our videos. Ah, okay. I'll go put it in a different mug, right? As opposed to just feeling like I'm attacking you.
Yeah. We were able to do that real time without needing to, you know, to take the pause.
Yeah.
But that's the value, and that's the invitation that we're saying. It's like, okay, well, in your setbacks where you're seeing them and you're spotting them, maybe you're struggling to spot them. How can you carve in some time where you actually take the opportunity to step back and reflect?
And if you're struggling to find that, you can call us. We can come in and we can audit your relationship. We can show you what we see and what we notice, and we can also just help you create more healthy, sustainable tools for conscious communication, for how to navigate challenge, for how to work with the nervous system if you've got a partner that's gone through trauma, any of those things. Like, we are amazing.
How to unlock the stories in the mind.
Yeah, you're so good at that.
So that they're not there anymore.
Yeah, so if you recognize that you're in a season of setback and it's like, man, we're having a hard time. And it's been challenging for us to understand each other and to hear each other. We totally get that. And we would love to support you in that in some way. So there will be a link below in the description where you can see our Alchemy of Intimacy offering. We would love to talk to you, get on a call with you, see how we can help you. And we just want you to flourish in relationship and in love and in your connection with God. So however we can support you in getting back there.
Getting back to love through sex and prayer.
We're here for it.
We're here for it. Cheers.
Have an amazing week, everybody. Yeah.